Hi everyone. I really didn't want to be the person who gets on the video and is doing things that are not for children, but my channel is not for children, and I'm completely secure in who I am. So, no, I was just sitting here. I just made a video, um, just kind of getting my thoughts out. And then in the video, I realized why I was making the video and shot out to my to-do list because I started writing my daily things to do again. And I'm noticing that even if I don't get it done that day, that I will get it done at least like within 2 or 3 days. Well, I told myself, I wrote down on my to-do list, I'm going to make a YouTube video. And so today I just felt like I had to document my thoughts. And now I realize that the reason why I did that is because I need to talk to you guys about a safe space. And during my journey with Reiki, receiving Reiki, one of the messages that came through is that I needed to have a safe space. And when I got to that safe space, that things would open up for me. And I was actually living with my dad, who I feel very safe with. But as I was expanding, I noticed that I created a little pocket of Alicia in my dad's home. And me creating that pocket and expanding beyond it, the expansion part got a little hard because me being on the journey that I was and my dad being old school and in his beliefs, I was coming out of religion and he's not and still is not. And even though he does accept my spiritual journey and he's not thinking that I'm not believing in God now, he just knows that it's not what he believes that God is. It's been really interesting, but I knew that at some point I was feeling oppressed and that I wasn't going to be able to expand the way that I felt like I needed to expand, and I needed to find my safe space. And so I was manifesting that. And me manifesting that safe space, I didn't know what it was going to look like. I was actually just manifesting living off grid. And I thought I was going to be living with this man that I was dating. And yeah, totally living by myself. I crack myself up, dude. So clearly that safe space wasn't with somebody else. And I had to learn how to create that safe space for myself. And now that I'm in my safe space, and I have been for about a year and a half, I know now why I needed my safe space. And it's because it allows me to be comfortable and be my complete self. And sometimes you don't know what that is unless you have the opportunity to just be. And when you live in a reality that's not just your reality on a regular basis, meaning you're sharing your life with somebody, whether it's a roommate or whatever the case may be, your boyfriend, your family members, friend, whatever, it's like at some point you're going to have to pull yourself away and learn to have, just for myself, it was like getting out of codependency and being able to stand on my own. Not that I couldn't do it because I already had lived by myself, but it was more so emotional codependency for me. I'm like, well, what is life? What am I doing? And this is when I was like 27 when I moved out of my place and I moved in with my dad. And it was like, oh, he needs help. He just retired and he's living there by himself. I would go over, the windows and the curtains were dark and just everything. I was like, you need some light in here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, my dad needs my light. I know I can bring him back up. And, after retirement, it's kind of scary because they say people die really fast after retirement, unfortunately. And it's because you sit down and you don't do nothing. And, And it's not that I was worried about that, but I kind of was worried about that. So, and yeah, just all the things that go along with emotional codependency too, you know? And so I was like, I'm going to move back in with Papa and then I'll be able to, make power moves, which I did. But at the same time, it's you get to a point where, and I was not like, I'm usually not in a relationship, and I have like a close relationship with my family members, like my immediate family members. We just have a small family and we're blessed to be close to one another. And yeah, I just see the codependency running through a lot of the different, I guess I'm seeing the branches of our family, because it's not just our immediate family, but I'm seeing the generational curse go through, you know. And me standing on my own and really being like, you know what, this is what I believe in. This is what I want. I literally chose myself. And when right before I moved into my safe space, I actually got into an argument with my ex-boyfriend. And he was like, I'm going to have all your shit outside before you. He was like, you better have all your shit out before I get home and put it all outside. And I had to go to work that day. And I was like, you know what? I ain't doing this shit. And we had been arguing, and it's like once a month he was mad and he was like, oh, I don't want to. This is another thing too. You find yourself you find yourself in a situation that seems ideal, right? Somebody wants to take care of you, all these things. But then it starts coming with fucking, there's different reasons. I can't catch the word right now, but you already know there's some bullshit that's coming along with, oh, I want to take care of you. They want something in return. And it got to the point where I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. And I knew that, like, at a certain point, too, like, my time was done, but not going off of the subject. So we got into an argument and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't give a fuck if I sleep in my car until I find a place. I'm going to move. And I had actually been planting the seed, and I feel like it was just like the last thing where I just really had to choose myself, because from the day that I moved out, a week later, I was in the place that I had been manifesting for a year and a half. And I knew it was the place that I was manifesting because it's literally, I was manifesting living off grid, and everything that I said within my manifestation, I have, except for I didn't have a specific city and I didn't say that I lived in the forest. And so from the street, you can't see my house. I have 5 fruit trees and a berry bush because I kept saying I wanted a fruit forest instead of a food forest. And I knew that I wanted to stand on my lawn and be able to see my healing space. And I can see my office from the lawn, which was wild. And I had the office first. Either way, going back to the Reiki session that I received, and she was like, the ancestors said that you needed to find a safe space before you're able to expand and do what you're supposed to do. And so, granted, I had built my office when I was in that relationship that I had gotten out of right when I got into my place. I feel like it didn't happen the way that I thought it was going to happen. But now that I've been in my safe space for about a year and a half, I've expanded my business. I went through a crazy ass situation where, and people may not believe in this, but where people were doing magic on me. And girl, I did my return to sender, and my shit is very powerful. I probably shouldn't even be saying this because they might be looking, but I really don't give a damn. I quit the job that I was making the most money at. And now I have my own business. I just did my grand reopening on my birthday, 1/2/3. And yeah, it was just a powerful day. And the way that I was looking at it is like, dang, now that I have my safe space, everything that I want to create, the things that come to my mind, there's nothing holding me back. There's nobody telling me that that's not possible. There's no one randomly in my ear when I don't want to hear it that what I believe in isn't true. And I think that I'm saying all this, and it's very important because as people are waking up, it is so hard to pull away from everything that you thought was true. I cried for 3 months straight. and I was like watching things fall apart, and I couldn't really understand why it was happening, but I kind of did know. But in the moment, you're not thinking about that. But I feel like you go through a point where you're just like, I can't do it anymore. Like, it's just not worth it to me. And even if you don't quite know where you're going or what you want, there's still, there's just something about being liberated. And I started like thinking about, all the things that I thought were true and the way that I applied them to my life and the outcome of those things. And when I started taking myself out of the boxes that I put myself in, and I started taking the hats off that I put on, and I just looked at myself as a spirit, it was like, or a soul, it, to me, like my journey now is different, and what was important to me before isn't important to me anymore. And I think that having my safe space, like the ancestors said, was important for me to be able to expand and to be able to be my true self. And I feel like that's part of the awakening, where it's like you're wondering, who am I? What is my true self? And it's making me want to cry. It's like, it's a kind of, everyone is different, but we're all the same. And in order for you to be your best self, because even though we're connected, it's like we're in these individual bodies, I feel like you have to learn how to be the best version of your own self. And the best version of your own self is not something that's found in outside of you. You have to cultivate that from the inside. And the things that we go through on a regular basis, on a day-to-day, the people that we interact with, the jobs that we show up to, all those things and places contribute to us, right? And you can't just go run away from the world and be like, oh, I mean, you want to do that, but you can't do that. We're all connected, and we're all going to be here functioning with one another. And I feel like it's just kind of like a video game. But yeah, the simulation of the video game, everything outside of you is just telling you what it is that you need to learn. It's like you're dropping down into Jumanji and you're like in the forest, like, okay, who am I? You're looking at yourself like, this is my body, this is my capabilities, but it's more so energetic capabilities. That's another thing. It's like when you're over here in other people's energy that's not on your frequency, and you're trying to fight with it because, you don't realize that you don't have to be there, and you don't have to do that because you created this reality. So just as you created it, you can not, create something different. Let's say that. And so, forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, it's like you're jumping down into Jumanji, and then you have those energetic qualities. And I feel like when you're around other people that are not believing in what you're believing in, it makes it harder for you to believe in the things that are new to you, that are unseen. And so I had dreams when I was like, excuse me, it's the blunt now. Let me drink my Starbucks. But I had dreams when I was 18. I feel like I had my first vivid dream when I was 18, and what was happening in my dream was happening in life, like at the same time. And then I knew at 15 that I wasn't going to have kids, and that I wasn't going to have like a regular like relationship, like white picket fence, we're going to be married, like all those things. I knew it wasn't going to be that. And I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I just knew that. And at 33, I started, well, before that, I would say during my like Saturn return 27-ish, I was in the woods all the time. And then at 33, I feel like I really started waking up. Like, I feel like I already knew some things underlying, but then that's when I just started really taking the journey, really starting to dive deep, watching lectures, buying all the books, and yeah, just meditating, really tapping into myself. And 34 is when I got my spiritual awakening with drugs, well, with acid. And yeah, through, I would say at 34, and I was already intuitive, like, because I'm a hairstylist. And so I would be talking to my clients and I'm like, damn, everybody's like, you have the right thing to say. Like, you already, like, and even when I was younger, people would tell me that I had an old soul, but I didn't know that I was just channeling. And I didn't realize that my spirit was so old. Like, I've been here many times. And so, yeah, I want to say that around that time, like 34, and I got my Reiki attunement, my spiritual gifts, those energetic gifts, man, they just started heightening. And it's now to the point where I can legit say I'm all the clairs. I can astral project, like, all kinds of stuff, and I didn't realize that it was that easy to do it. And I think it's just a matter of, like, going back to the safe space. You can just be yourself. It's like kind of going out into the forest where everything is just being. It doesn't have to try. So it's like you can't help but to just go out there and be, and just observe and just, be in nature and not have to hear. Yeah, just like not even hearing the traffic. Like today when I was out in the mountains, you can't even hear the cars. It's just amazing. But I'm saying all this because the safe space is what nurtured and what hugged and held space for me to really tap into my gifts and to really expand. And so I guess this message is for people that are looking for a safe space. And it doesn't matter if you live by yourself or not by yourself. I think it really just matters what you're aligning with and if it's serving your higher purpose, and allowing your logical mind to step out of the way, because the logical mind is trying to figure out how to function in the 3D, and the logical mind is, I feel like it's definitely connected to your subconscious, but it's like, your subconscious, your wiring, it's like that could be based on so many things that are false. And so when you're using your logical mind to function in this fictitious matrix, it's kind of hard to really listen to yourself and be still and allow yourself to align to your gifts. And I mean, I even did, like, I was vegan for a little bit, and I don't even feel like diet's important. Yes, very important. And just because you're eating meat doesn't mean you're going to be in a low vibration. But at the same time, it's like energy, in order for you to really like tap into what energy is and how that feels for you and how you work with it, and how it works with you, I feel like to an extent it really does require you to be in a safe space. And you can be married and not be in a safe space. You can live by yourself and not be in a safe space, right? Because if you don't have boundaries, it's like, and that's what starts creating, I don't want to say division, but sometimes you do need to pull back, and not necessarily make a clean cut, but you need to pull back from giving so much energy to something that's not serving your higher purpose. And I think that when you're in the same household as somebody, or in that same mindset, and you can't get out of that loop in your own head, and you don't have boundaries, and you're just letting people come in and out of your life and in and out of your house and treating you however, it's like there's no way that you're ever going to, I mean, it's a possibility, but even if it is something that happens that way, like if somebody were to love you, like with real true love, if you haven't experienced that before, if you don't know how to give that to yourself, it's not going to come, you're not going to receive it easy. I'm going to guarantee you that, and so that's why the safe space is so important. It's like the safe space is in your mind, the safe space is in your heart. And I feel like when I created the safe space for myself, it was when I chose myself and I stopped going back and forth with my ex-boyfriend and I moved. I feel like that's when I got my safe space, when I just said no. And did I deal with him after that? Yeah. And I mean, I'm not perfect and I don't feel like things are always going to be cut dry. So it tapered off or whatever. But at the same time, he's not in my life right now and he hasn't been for a while. But it's also because I found that safe space and I've nurtured that safe space. And not saying that I don't have company, because I do have company, but for the most part, it's me in here, and it feels really good. It feels really good. And now that I'm back in the dating world, it's really interesting because I don't want everybody in my safe space. I haven't let nobody in my safe space. But I also have been, except for my ex. And yeah, no. And it's really interesting just maneuvering through it. But I like it. And I love me. And I'm just grateful for my safe space. And so if you're one of those people out there that needed to hear this message, I hope you received it in a way that it's going to help you find your safe space. And I appreciate you guys watching. And I hope you have a good evening or good day, depending on when you're listening to it. But yeah, safe space. And when you find it inside, last thing, when you find it inside, then you get it on the outside. And so when I said I feel like I found my safe space when I chose myself, yeah, because a week later, I got a physical safe space. Just grateful, I feel like I'm growing up. It's wild. It only took 37 years. All right, guys, have a good one.